official pa. Afisheya, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner buffet beya wadawa. To the Ridge Royal Hotel. Order your bites, pizzas, sandwiches, pound cakes, and special cuisines by our international chefs and have it delivered at your doorstep. Join us for the best music, drinks, and ambience at our pool bar and lounge as we meet friends, family, and loved ones this festive season. Ogwazi, we love our tradition and our hospitality trademark is Ridge Royal Hotel. Call us now on 031-2003-222 or 050-1672-908. Locate us at 2nd Ridge Cape Coast or visit www.ridgeroyalhotel.com.gh. Official poll. Ridge Royal Hotel, richly inviting, comfortably yours.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people.
Issue of academic fees for first years, I want to clarify that. We call it no fee stress policy. There are many cases of students who are unable to take up their offers in tertiary education because they simply cannot afford to pay their academic fees. And one wants the situation where everybody who has the opportunity to go to tertiary, to achieve a tertiary education, to be able to take up their places in these institutions. And the first year is particularly stressful because a lot of the children would have come from the free SHS where the burden of paying fees has been taken off the parents. Then suddenly they come to tertiary and then bam, they are hit with major payments. And so to smoothen that part, we said we would begin to implement the constitutional provision of progressively free tertiary education. And so it's not going to affect the subvention of universities, indeed, of tertiary institutions. Indeed, we're going to increase the subvention to tertiary institutions. But we're going to budget for this. We estimate that it will cost between 270 and 290 million. We believe that we should be able to do that by resizing and rebalancing the budget to be able to find the resources for it. And it will be administered by the Student Loan Trust. And so the money will be paid to the Student Loan Trust, and the Student Loan Trust will pay that money to the universities on behalf of the students who have been admitted. But it will be a grant, it won't be a loan. The Student Loan Trust will pay it as a grant. It will not be included in the loan portfolio of the students. The students would settle in the first year, and in the second year, when they have been registered on the Student Loan Trust, they'll begin to access their loans. And as you know, the loans are payable only when they finish school and have found a job. And so let me state again that it will not affect the subventions, the internally generated funds of the universities, because government will budget for it and give it to the Student Loan Trust to give to the first level 100 students as a grant to pay their academic fees. And then from the second year, they can properly access the student loan. So I hope that this brings clarity to it. I just want to reassure my colleagues in UTAG that it will not affect their IGFs. And indeed, over the years, government subvention to tertiary institutions has been dwindling. And so it's affecting the running of these universities. And so we think that if we resize and rebalance the budget and cut out a lot of waste, we can increase the subventions to universities so that they're able to run more efficiently and provide the quality education that we expect them to provide for students. research shows that more than 90% of people in Ghana believe in God and belong to one faith or the other. If that is so, and we are a God-believing nation, then it means that we, apart from our physical labor and the efforts that we make to improve our country, on the spiritual and divine plane, we must thank God for everything that He does for us. And it's not new. In the US of A, they have the National Day of Thanksgiving and Prayer. In several countries, in Congo, in Zambia, in many countries, they have it. And I think that it pays to set one day aside so that all of us who are committed in our faith are able to make supplication to God to continue to bless our efforts to make our country prosperous and to make it progress. And so that is the reason behind it. It's a National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving. It will cover all faiths, and so the Christians would have theirs, and the Muslims would also have theirs, led by the Chief Imam, and the Christians, the Christian Council, the Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council. Indeed, it's the faith-based organizations that will lead the process, and they will be responsible for the organization. Government will just be a facilitator, and as president, I'll lend my presence to these prayer and thanksgiving services. This Keta port has been used as a red herring by this government for a long time. At one point, they said a feasibility study. They came and brought some white people to walk around there and all that. They brought some things measured. I can assure you that they have absolutely no intention of delivering a Keta port. They wanted to do like they did with the Buankra Inland Port. And my understanding is that they were going to take some money from Gapoha to come and build the administration block. You don't have warehouse. You don't have, what do they call that water thing? Journalists. You don't have breakwater to allow ships to come in. And your first priority is to build administration block. The same way they built Buankra administration block, how many years ago? Eventually that building has deteriorated so badly, it's no longer fit for purpose. The first thing is, let's see the feasibility study. Every project starts with a feasibility study. And so if you say you've done the feasibility study, let us all look at it and see what is in the feasibility study. That is the first step. And then once we take that first step, then we go to the next step. But this government has turned the whole thing on its head. They have a port director, they have land cruisers, they've employed staff, they are paying them when you have only 2 containers standing on the land and a signboard. And so we would reprioritize it. One, I want to become president, and one of the first things I'll ask for is, show me the feasibility study for the Keta port. And when we have seen the feasibility study, we would let you see it yourselves. And then based on that, we can take it from there. If there must be a port, there must be a specialized port for something. Because you have Tema, you have Lomé. And so if you're having an intermediate port, is it going to handle the same cargoes that Lomé and Tema are handling? You know, so those are all things that we need to look at. And when we have looked at it, then we can determine how we move forward. And so they should stop playing politics with it. Let us see the feasibility study. Let us see the design of the port. And when we have seen that, we can move forward. Today, the running mate for MPP, when they went and introduced him to Otumfuo, Otumfuo said, oh, we brought you up because you are part of the Menshia Palace. And we know we brought you up well. But we hear you are arrogant. We hope that you prove people wrong. As soon as he left there, not up to 3 hours, he went and said, Mo Kwame Nkrumah no. That's your Kwame Nkrumah. That is a very disrespectful thing to say about the founder of this nation. and especially a founder who is no longer alive. You can insult me because I can respond because I'm alive. But you don't say, in our tradition, you don't say evil things about the dead. You don't disrespect the dead because they are not alive to respond to you. In the past, ghosts were powerful. As he said that Nkrumah's ghost would have knocked him down. But now, the ghosts have all become disarmed. And he can't hide the arrogance. I was just watching a video yesterday, and he was talking about the past president. He said Rawlings, and he said Kufuor, and somehow he even forgot Professor Mills's name. And then he said, Bakuna Awewuno, that one who died. I mean, how can you talk like this? Very disrespectful, very insulting. Bakuna Awewuno, the one who is dead. Arrogance is like pregnancy. Whatever you do, it will come out.
If there's one thing I can promise you as leader, and when you elect me as president, is that I will not tell you lies. I will always tell you the truth. I'll always tell you the truth. And that is why, as soon as we come into office, within the first 100 days, we're going to organize a national economic dialogue. And the Minister of Finance who will be appointed is going to come and address the dialogue. It will be a national dialogue, and he'll tell Ghanaians the true state of the economy. Because knowing this government, I am sure that we will come and find that the economy is in an even greater mess than they are telling us. But we'll look at the books, we'll open it so that everybody can see what is there.
My good friend and colleague, I was in parliament with him. He likes to speak his mind very openly, Kennedy Ejapong. He advised his party that, look, go back and apologize to the people of Ghana for the hardship into which you have plunged them. And that is the truth. They need to apologize to Ghanaians. And when he said it, this finance minister they brought just yesterday, he is not part of those who have put us where we are. They got him, okay, you go and apologize. It's not his apology we want. He just came. Those who must apologize are, number one, Nana Akufo-Addo. Jack Toronto. And his younger brother. Number two, the one who must apologize, is the head of the solid economic management team, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And the third one who must apologize is their finance minister, Mr. Ken Oforiatta. It's those three people from whom Ghanaians are expecting an apology. not the current finance minister, Amin Anta. So please, Amin Anta, apology rejected. Let the three masterminds of our present predicament come and apologize to the people of Ghana before we would even listen to you or take you seriously. But even whatever apology they give, Ghanaians must send them back into opposition so that they can go and sit and reflect on the harm they have done to this country. Issue of academic fees for first years, I want to clarify that. We call it no fee stress policy. There are many cases of students who are unable to take up their offers in tertiary education because they simply cannot afford to pay their academic fees. And one wants the situation where everybody who has the opportunity to go to tertiary, to achieve a tertiary education, to be able to take up their places in these institutions. And the first year is particularly stressful because a lot of the children would have come from the free SHS where the burden of paying fees has been taken off the parents. Then suddenly they come to tertiary and then bam, they are hit with major payments. And so to smoothen that part, we said we would begin to implement the constitutional provision of progressively free tertiary education. And so it's not going to affect the subvention of universities, indeed, of tertiary institutions. Indeed, we're going to increase the subvention to tertiary institutions. But we're going to budget for this. We estimate that it will cost between 270 and 290 million. We believe that we should be able to do that by resizing and rebalancing the budget to be able to find the resources for it. And it will be administered by the Student Loan Trust. And so the money will be paid to the Student Loan Trust, and the Student Loan Trust will pay that money to the universities on behalf of the students who have been admitted. But it will be a grant, it won't be a loan. The Student Loan Trust will pay it as a grant. It will not be included in the loan portfolio of the students. The students would settle in the first year, and in the second year, when they have been registered on the Student Loan Trust, they'll begin to access their loans. And as you know, the loans are payable only when they finish school and have found a job. And so let me state again that it will not affect the subventions, the internally generated funds of the universities, because government will budget for it and give it to the Student Loan Trust to give to the first level 100 students as a grant to pay their academic fees. And then from the second year, they can properly access the student loan. So I hope that this brings clarity to it. I just want to reassure my colleagues in UTAG that it will not affect their IGFs. And indeed, over the years, government subvention to tertiary institutions has been dwindling. And so it's affecting the running of these universities. And so we think that if we resize and rebalance the budget and cut out a lot of waste, we can increase the subventions to universities so that they're able to run more efficiently and provide the quality education that we expect them to provide for students. Research shows that more than 90% of people in Ghana believe in God and belong to one faith or the other. If that is so, and we are a God-believing nation, then it means that we, apart from our physical labor and the efforts that we make to improve our country, on the spiritual and divine plane, we must thank God for everything that He does for us. And it's not new. In the US of A, they have the National Day of Thanksgiving and Prayer. In several countries, in Congo, in Zambia, in many countries, they have it. And I think that it pays to set one day aside so that all of us who are committed in our faith are able to make supplication to God to continue to bless our efforts to make our country prosperous and to make it progress. And so that is the reason behind it. It's a National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving. It will cover all faiths, and so the Christians would have theirs, and the Muslims would also have theirs, led by the Chief Imam, and the Christians, the Christian Council, the Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council. Indeed, it's the faith-based organizations that will lead the process, and they will be responsible for the organization. Government will just be a facilitator, and as president, I'll lend my presence to these prayer and thanksgiving services.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.
And thank you very much for choosing the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji, live on Pan-African Television. Of course, you're watching Pan-African Television. We are live from the Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah studios of Pan-African Television. We are also live on Radio Gold. We are live on social media. Social media, you can get us Pan-African Television on Facebook, Pan-African Television on YouTube. Once again, thank you very much for choosing us. My name is Sena Nombo. This morning, as we always do, we'll have a frank, open, honest discussion on what Dr. Percy likes to call the peace industry. Now, every election year, the main players come together. Specifically, most importantly, people look up to the MPP and the NDC, and the other political parties come together and sign a peace pact to commit to peace during the elections. Now, this time around, the person who is supposed to go and sign that pact on behalf of the National Democratic Congress, usually is the chairman. He says this time he's not so interested in a declaration. That's not what he's interested in. He's been sounding the alarm bells over a period of time, telling the Peace Council to get up and do something about the kind of rhetoric we're hearing, especially from the people in power. And he's not heard anything. The last time they signed in 2020, nothing. In fact, that was the bloodiest election he's ever seen as a politician. So he's not interested in declaration. Former President Mahama was asked about this yesterday. He says he understands the concerns of his chairman because the last pact did nothing. This discussion is coming on the back of Brian Champon's latest comment. 3 times he said the same thing. It has to do with the fact that power will not be handed over to anybody. They are retaining power. And this time around he says, by any means possible. If you don't like, burn the sea. That's the latest comment from Brian Champon. And the Peace Council is worried that the NDC has given them signals that they are not signing the peace pact. So we'll be talking about that in our very first topic of discussion, and then we'll talk about the launch of the NDC Youth Manifesto. The key issue that has attracted attention is the promise, and the Deputy National Youth Organizer clarified that what they are promising to do is to cover the first year academic fees. So the exemption is residential fees. So they will not cover residential fees, but at least when it comes to academic fees, what is you pay as an admission fee outside of the residential fee, they will cover that one for you. So that's the promise they made for first level 100 students to make entry easier for them. Well, the MPP has one question. What happens? So I get into the school, continuing, how do I cater for the rest of the schooling? The NDC says our intent is to make entry easier. Some lecturers who have responded to this have raised only two concerns. One, they said the subventions coming to the universities are too small. Secondly, they don't get those subventions on time. If the subventions come and the subventions are increased, and then the monies that are supposed to be paid on behalf of the students come in time, they do not have a problem. Former President Mahama says, no problem. Those are part of our plan. So we'll be talking about the launch of the NDC Youth Manifesto. And of course, the NPP is also launching its manifesto today. And then we'll conclude with concerns coming in. Yesterday, in fact, Thursday, the Peasant Farmers Association actually held a press conference where they warned that this season, the food baskets will not be able to produce foods in the quantities that they do currently because of unreliable rain. One of the big farmers says he has a farm. There are situations where 1/3 of his farm will have good rain. The rest of them, 2/3, very terrible rains. Peasant farmer says we currently are self-reliant. We produce all the maize or the corn that we use in Ghana, that Ghana produces. When it comes to corn, we are self-reliant. But where we are going, that one too, we may have to seek for imports. With the dollar where it is, well, so we'll be concluding with that issue. Joining me in the studio this morning to have that discussion, of course, Solomon also is a member of the Movement of Change, sitting to my right. And then we are joined by Ambassador Zita Benson. Ambassador Zita Benson is a former minister for information, and then also subsequently became an ambassador to the Czech Republic. She joins us in the studio this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's been quite a while since we saw you.
Yes.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
And they would also be joined by the Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Comrade Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed, and the panel will be completed by Dr. David Percy, who is a student of history and politics. Once again, thank you very much. Your comments are important to us. We have a text message and WhatsApp number. You can see it on your screens currently. But if you're listening to us, 0559 919802. So 0559 919802. Send a message to that number via text message or WhatsApp, and then I'll read it out as we go along in the show. If you're using any of the Facebook if you're using the Facebook handle, you're watching through Facebook, YouTube, do share, comment, and I'll read them. Well, let's start with the issues with the peace declaration. Would it happen or would it not happen? Well, I'll start with Ambassador Zita Benson. Oh, nice to see you once again.
Yes.
Yes.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
Nice to have you.
Yes.
So we'll hear her views on that.
Thank you. First of all, good morning to all viewers. Yes, as you already know, our chairman, Alhaji and Keta, has said that we are not really concerned about any peace pact being signed this year. And really, I don't blame him. I don't blame him, because if you look at the role of the Peace Council, they are supposed to ensure that there is peace before and after the election. You know, just having a ceremonial event of calling political parties to come and sign a piece of paper is not going to guarantee peace. There are so many signs, as we are seeing right now, that is pointing to the fact that some members of this current government, high-ranking members, are saying that if they lose, they will not hand over power. Yet the Peace Council has not sanctioned them. So really, I would like us to look at the role of the Peace Council. Their role is to harmonize and coordinate conflict prevention, first of all. It is not just waiting to resolve conflict when it happens. They're supposed to prevent it. They're also supposed to make recommendations to the government and other stakeholders on how to promote trust. Trust is very, very important. That if the Peace Council is going to be the mediator, we have to be able to trust them. And we have to have confidence between them and other groups. But the Peace Council so far have not proven themselves to have that trust and confidence that the people want to see. And I believe that is why our national chairman has said that we as a party, we are not going to sign that document. If you look at in 2016, there was a report that they did after the election. Stakeholders were interviewed, and a lot of people, pointed to the fact that the way the Peace Council is structured, there are a number of weaknesses in their programming and design. In the fact that the Peace Council is under the Ministry of Interior. So there's a tendency for the Peace Council to do what the Ministry of Interior, who is the normally the Ministry of Interior is controlled by the current government, you know. So if the Peace Council is under the Ministry of Interior, there's no independence from the government and the ministry and what is at stake for the people. There's no neutrality, if I must say. And probably that is why people don't trust the Peace Council and all that it stands for. Now, I have them. Yesterday, I was looking at what Brian Achampon said. Brian Achampon is a minister of this government. He was minister of Agri, right?
Yeah, he is.
And he's currently...
He's still minister of Agri, Food and Agriculture.
He was with National Security.
And,
okay,
Interior.
so Brian Achampon has been in control of our security apparatus. He knows what is there. And so if Brian Achampon, who used to be minister for, or deputy minister for national security,
Minister of State
for national security, is saying that if they do lose, they are not going to hand over power, then we shouldn't take it. And listen, he says that we won't give it to the NDC. This election is not about NDC. It's about what the people of Ghana want. And so if the people of Ghana want change, and Brian Achampon, as a Minister of Agri, former Minister of National Security, is saying that, and he has said it about 3 times. That's what I'm actually looking for. He said it about 3 times, that they are not going to hand over. Then he wants to say that he's going to take away the sovereignty of the people from them and put it in his own hands, which really amounts to a coup d'etat. Because if the people, the power resides in the people, sovereignty resides in the people, in our constitution. So if we go to the polls and the people vote and say that, listen, we want a change, and Brian Achampon decides that even though the people have voted and want a change, he's not going to hand over, it amounts to a coup d'etat that he at that moment is engaging in. And he has said it not once, not twice, 3 times. So it means that there's some seriousness and good intention to what he's saying, that he means what he's saying. So I think the first one he said was somewhere April 8, 2023 at Impraeso, the MPP unity walk. That's when he said this MPP government will never hand over power to NDC. And that's what I'm saying. It's not about the NDC. It's about what the people want. The people are suffering. They want change. So you give them the change. You had 8 years to ensure that when that 8 years come, they are not going to vote you out. So if you didn't do your job well, and the time is near, and the people are saying that we think that you failed us, and we want someone else to come, it's not up to you to decide that you won't hand over to NDC. You are going to hand over because that's what the people want. Now, the second one he said was on 30th March, 2024. Also at Impraeso. So I think when he gets to Impraeso, so he gets drunk with power, and then he just talks ajar. He says MPP will not hand over power to NDC. Brian Achampon affirms. Then there's a third one, August 2024. So since April 8th, 2023 to August 2020, Brian Achampon has said this 3 times. He says election 2024, MPP will do whatever it takes to win. If you don't understand, go and bend the sea. Okay? If you don't understand, go and bend the sea. Look, Ghana is a very peaceful country, and we are known for that in the world. I mean, when people come here, tourism is thriving because there's peace in Ghana. So for someone who has interest in tourism, for instance, because I know he has a lot of hotels. Recently, he was even trying to steal our hotels, the La Palm and the Royal Beach hotels, the Golden Beaches hotels. He wanted to take over them, you know, and the people rose and said they would not let him have it. So for someone who has an interest in tourism and is craving for war, let's look at our neighboring countries. War is not a nice thing. Look at what is happening in Ukraine. Look at how Ukraine went down in just a flash on the first day of that war. So we shouldn't even pray for war. Now, coming to the Peace Council, Brian Champon has made his intention known 3 times in a year. Have they sanctioned him? Have they called him to order? No, we haven't heard that. So if they want peace, they should go back and read what their mandate says. They are supposed to prevent conflict and maintain peace. This man, Brian Champon, is beating war drums, saying he will not hand over when the people decide that they want who they want. In the first place, why is he even worried that they are going to lose if they've done the right thing? But he knows that they've lost the election in advance because he knows they have failed the people, and he knows it's a possibility that they are going to lose the election. That is why he's so focused on beating war drums. Otherwise, it should be an easy, if you know that you've done something good, you should just go to the people and tell them that, look, we have fulfilled Agenda 111, which they haven't. They haven't even built one hospital ever since that promise was made. So they know they have failed. We said we're going to build school buildings. They haven't done one. We said we're going to do this. They have done nothing. So they know that people are going to boot them out. That's why he's going on the second tangent, which is war. Nobody wants war. And so the Peace Council, I'm calling on the Peace Council to sanction Brian Champon and assure us that Brian Champon is not going to take the law into his own hands and, create war where we all want to enjoy our peace. This same Peace Council, election 2020, 7 or 8 people were killed. Maybe I missed it, but did you hear the Peace Council come out to condemn it? Did you? If the chairman of the Peace Council is listening, maybe he said it somewhere and I didn't hear. But I don't think that the Peace Council even issued a statement, because I went on their website before coming here. They did not issue a statement on the 7 lives that were lost in election 2020. Children were killed at Ododo. There was a 14-year-old who died through violence, through state-sanctioned killings. These killings were not done by ordinary people. These killings were done by police and military who were at the polling stations. All the people wanted was to ensure that their polls were not being rigged. And they were shot. They were shot mercilessly. They were killed. 7 people died. The Peace Council never asked for a report on the people who died from the Ministry of Defense nor from the Ministry of Interior as to why their men killed innocent citizens for Nanado to become president. So if the Peace Council wants us to sign a piece of paper, then they need to do their job. Because I think they are doing a very poor job as we speak, and people don't trust them. As we speak, there's a gentleman by name Peter Apiahinia, MPP research officer in the Bono East. He's been appointed as director at the EC. He's a commissioner at the EC. I mean, the EC is supposed to be neutral. So if you have an MPP communications or research person in charge of our elections, you should know that you are already at a disadvantaged position, because he will do whatever it takes to ensure that the election is rigged. These are some of the issues that we want the Peace Council to look at. In the past, the Peace Council was in this country when pastors like Reverend Obusu Pempa were, inciting people against His Excellency John Mahama. Said he had seen him carrying coffins, blah, blah, blah. Reverend Obusu Pempa is a pastor. He's one of them. The Peace Council and the Christian Council and all of them, they are supposed to remain neutral for the elections to go on. They come out in the name of fake prophecies. I saw him carrying coffins, and then turn people against other people, and they expect that when the time is near, we come and sign a piece of paper. They are supposed to sanction those Christians who do that. That this is an election. Let the people go in with clear mind as to who they want to lead them. Do not go in with fake prophecies to go and turn people's minds against one or the other. They didn't sanction him, but I know that they sanctioned Niger Gilzi or something when he said something similar. And you know that these two pastors, one is seen as NDC, one is seen as Nanado's pastor. So, you know, you see some bias when it comes to how people are dealt with when they say things that they are not supposed to say. What Brian Champon said, if I had said it, I'm sure by now I'll be in BNI cells by now. But Brian Champon is walking free because his government is in. Most of the people who comprise the Peace Council are known MPP people. Now, you take another person like Reverend Kusi Boateng. Reverend Kusi Boateng has been known to have two identities. Yao Edujemfi or something. He is in charge of the National Cathedral. When it came out that he was given a contract in Kwabena Edujemfi's name, you know, nothing was said about it. He's still walking around. And about last week or 2 weeks ago, I saw a video of him saying that Bawumia is going to win this election by all means. I mean, he has some guts. This man, he has two identities. They are not two different names that he's using. He has two separate identities. He should be behind bars if it was another country. But over here, he's still in charge of the National Cathedral. They've wasted over $58 million on the National Cathedral. And Peace Council is watching them. Christian Council is watching them because they are building the National Cathedral and they have dug a hole that is not going to benefit anybody. Somebody who is known to have two identities is in charge of that institution, and they are quiet about it. And they expect us to go and sign a piece of paper that there's going to be peace. On our part as a party, we've always been peaceful. The NDC party has always been peaceful. If you recollect, it is the MPP that came up with Delta Force. They came up with all these vigilante groups, Delta Force and so forth and so on, that, you know, they used violence in the 2016 election. Even to the extent that this Delta Force went into a courtroom and beat up a female judge and threw her out. The Peace Council was quiet on all of this. You know, it's a fact. Sana, do you remember the judge that was beat up in Kumasi? So as a party, the NDC is committed to peace. That's one I can say. We don't intend to use violence. We intend to call on the good people of Ghana to give us the power. We will go to them, show them what we have done. That we built Ridge Hospital, we built UGMC, where they refused to open because they said it was a Photoshop. But when COVID came, they all went there to go and get treatment from that hospital. If you're coming from abroad and you get to Terminal 3, you know it was your mama who built it. We built roads, we did so many projects. So for us, we will go to the people with what we can do, what we can offer. We are not going with violence. Unlike the MPP that use the military, they use the police, and they use the vigilante groups. So if the Peace Council has any advice to give, they should start the prevention now, because we don't have trust in them, we don't have confidence in them. Do the prevention, call Brian Champon to order, call and let the MPP government know that you cannot use violence in this election. Because Ghana is the only country we have, and we must do all that we can to protect our dear country, irrespective of party affiliation. So yes, that is my take on it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you just join us, the Matter of All talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji, we are talking about concerns from not only the Peace Council, the Catholic bishops too, have bemoaned a lack of interest in an election declaration or pact this year. Well, let me just do a few comments that are coming in from Facebook, and then I'll listen to, because the NDC and MPP are not the only players in this election. In fact, Alan Chemantin has started a movement that has attracted a lot of attention, now morphed into an alliance with other parties and interest groups that will be contesting the elections. He will lead the party, that alliance, to contest the elections. So Solomon Owusu is a member of that alliance. We'll hear from him too on the issue of peace. It's a peace pact, what we need. Should we be focused on that? So we'll hear him shortly. But before that, Sami Zameku says the Peace Council is only interested in only chopping our money. Nyafu, nyafu. It's not only Brian Champo alone who is beating war drums. The President Nanado also said it in Wa that he's not ready to hand over power to John Mahama, whom he has defeated twice. Forgetting Mahama also defeated him, and yet he handed over power to him peacefully. These people are up to something. Ghanaians must be alert. There's Ibrahim Abdul Karim who says, Sena, all the chief imams are all mute. Pastors, chiefs are mute. We don't need them in front of GM's house to appeal for forgiveness to start quoting the Quran and Bible to GM to forgive others. There's also Magdo says, and Brian is just saying something to please his followers. Rawlings was a military person, handed over power. And what power does an old man president have? The President Council, the Peace Council is hypocrite, and I support the General Secretary of the NDC not to sign any peace pact. That's Magdo who sent that from Alajo. There's Ibrahim Abdul Karim again. Jabba who says, I hope the embassies in Ghana and the British High Commission and US Embassy have the videos of Brian threatening Ghanaians towards the election. When anything goes wrong, we don't need their peace talks. That's coming from him. There's Odikro Nana Komnata who says, Nanado painfully hand over power to Alan John Kojo chairman thing. Senior slices, arrogance and lies are like pregnancy. You can't hide it. In fact, a bad MPP government is like flat tire. You can't go anywhere until you change it. The victory of the NDC is coming again. Experience is the best teacher. Vote John and Jean and the great NDC for the Ghana we want. That's coming from, thank you very much. Real Ghana says, okay, a couple you've sent. Says, Sena, a spell has been cast against the MPP because instead of them campaigning to convince Ghanaians to vote for them, they are rather fighting and campaigning against Kwame Nkrumah. They are busily struggling with the wind and throwing blows in an attempt to punch the wind. Napo again, why are you obsessed with Dr. Kwame Nkrumah? Is it tormenting you? Napo's arrogance and pomposity and narcissism and disrespect and disdain of Nkrumah being highlighted once again. But you see, trying to destroy Nkrumah is like kicking your feet against a rock. You'll be badly bruised. The man is simply indestructible. Despite all attempts by the UP Dankwa, MPP, Matimi Hum, brigands and bandits to diminish the stature of Kwame Nkrumah, this man has totally lost his bearing. The MPP must be regretting choosing him as a running mate. Surely they must be heading for defeat. That's him. Thank you for sending in those comments. I'll conclude it. One from Steve Mohammed, who just sent this, who says, good morning to your guests, especially our Honorable Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Ibrahim Mohammed Mutala. This is from Vision in Tamale. He says, we are about to witness another set of scam policies from the MPP. No Ghanaian should fall for it. God determine when and where power should go. No man has that authority. When power is done with you, no amount of plan or magic can maintain it. The same MPP left power after former President Kufuor 8 years, not because it actually wanted to leave, but because power was done with them. Brian Champo and MPP should keep that in mind. Mr. Usu.
Thank you very much, sir. Co-panelist, my brother, you came in late. Let me start off by extending greeting from my candidate, Mr. Alhaji, to all the media houses that were present during the media encounter that asked questions based on what is contained in the Great Transformational Plan, which is beginning to sink, and also to assure you and your viewers that yes, there will be a change in 2024, but it will be a change that will bring transformation. And that change is what Mr. Alhaji is assuring. I find it very laughable when I hear people thinking that it's a straight horse between the NDC and MPP in election 2024. If you don't know that, you must look asleep. The country is quiet. We have less than 6 months into a major election, but you've seen that the country is quiet. It should tell you something, that people are not happy with the general structure, how politicians have taken them for a ride. And that is why we are where we are. So they will vote and vote wisely. Greetings to Andy also in the UK, and also all movement for change members across the length and breadth of this country. Sena, you see, this is a country that sometimes I wonder whether we actually think through certain policies before coming out with it. Just tell me, what is the relevance of this Peace Council? Tell me, if there is any, if it is not about just throwing money away. Their own mandate keeps them out, that they don't have what it takes to assure peace. And let me also say that peace is not just an absence of war. The mere fact that there is no war does not mean there is peace. People are suffering in this country. They are unable to rent. They are not getting food to eat. They ply on bad roads. And you say there is peace. No. That person only needs an encouragement to cause confusion. So to begin with, you ask yourself whether or not the members of the so-called Peace Council have what it takes to provide the economic emancipation of the people that are suffering on the street. The answer is an emphatic no. So it comes back to the general management of the economy. That to assure peace is to manage the economy well. And you don't need any structure to deal with the insecurity or the lack of peace thereof. So totally it's a waste of our resources. Again, the structure of the Peace Council itself. A president appointed some of the members. They operate under the Interior Minister, as Ambassador was saying. Do you believe for a moment that if the Interior Minister has an issue with the Peace Council, they will be able to look straight into his face and tell him something? The 2016 election exposed the Peace Council. They were helpless. Professor Emmanuel Asante was helpless at a point. He himself was running away. He couldn't handle it. Because there are so many interested groups when it comes to election. You understand? The president that is appointing you as a member of the Governing Council of the Peace Council, he has an interest. Remember, the Peace Council was established in 2011. Have you asked yourself why beyond the Peace Council we went further to establish or pass the vigilantism and then the related offenses? Because with the coming into being of force of the Peace Council, we still have the Hawks, the Kandahar boys, the Azoka boys, the invisible forces, the Baafiras, the Asamagase forces, the Bukurusong, the Tuhazi, the social nonsense. I mean, what is this? And these are established by political parties to pursue their interest. So once the act was passed, the Vigilantism and the Related Offences Act 999, we should have scrapped the Peace Council immediately, because then it was to deal with troublemakers. And there can never be peace without justice. We are, in this country, we are funny. We always talk about peace without looking at justice. I live in my house, or I am going to contest an election, just like Mr. Alanchamati is doing. This morning he's in voter agent. He is expending money on fuel to go and campaign. He does all these things. People believe in his policies and programs. Go and vote for him, and election day you go and steal him, and you go and bring these people with castle collar that they should come and quote Genesis, Revelation. Are you mad? You think who would accept that? Who would accept that? That I was voted for and I was stolen, and you want to tell me that I should accept it, though I have been cheated? Who would accept that? So one of the institutions that when Alan becomes the president, I will encourage him to scrap is that Peace Council. It's a total waste of our tax revenue. And they themselves must do us that greatest honor. You see, sometimes as a Ghanaian, and they're supposed to be people that we hold in high esteem, they should know, they ought to know that they are only preying on the small pairs that we have. It's not good for us. I mean, is it not interesting that a member of that peace council, Archbishop Dagawula, recently was even complaining that let not the electoral commission rig this election. This is the peace council member talking. He himself. He is unable to prevent the obvious because he has no such capacity to do so. We are all aware that BVR machines are missing. The electoral commission is telling us that it's missing. And we don't know the whereabouts of that machine. We have an electoral commission that doesn't want to listen. She made mention of our API. API, anyone who were in the MPP, and no communicator. How do you appoint such a person to occupy a position in the electoral commission? A commission that is supposed to be unbiased. I mean, Apiahin should have even known that it was so good for his image, for his integrity. He could be behaving within the confines of the law, but because he's tainted with a political color, nobody will see you as being neutral, and it is normal. Yet he is there. And whilst Apiahin is there, you hear daily from the president to the ministers. Mind you, followers learn from the leader. The president has been assuring that he's not going to hand over anyway. You hand over to Alan. We don't need him to hand over anything to us. Alan has won, and you think you'll be chasing in your house in Chebi or where to come and say that come and hand over. We are the Independence Square handing over everything. If you will not come sit in your house, who cares? When I hear people say the president might say that you hand over, what part of the constitution of the land says that I need the president to tell me that he has handed over before? There is absolutely. So when the president started those reckless rhetorics, the followers also singing the same tune. And that coward like Brian the Champ also started. Brian, you have contested thrice or twice primaries in Sum. You couldn't even defeat a simple Paranza. He changed you out until you ran to a Betifi. Now you are telling us that you are not going to hand over. I don't blame him. You understand? Because they don't know the anger in the system. Say good living breeds forgetfulness. They don't know. They have lost touch with what is on the highway. Sena, things are hard. Human beings are really suffering. When you call my candidate Alan to come and sign peace document, how can Alan assure you that he will ensure peace throughout the country? When he says Sena Nombo should go and sign a peace pact, how can Sena Nombo assure you that there will be peace throughout the country? It's an exercise in futility. And that is why we have laws. We have the Vigilantism Act. We have the Criminal Code that deals with miscreants. Just apply the laws impartially. And because you know that your Attorney General, who is supposed to lead all prosecutions, is not a partial, it's not an impartial person, you see that you are losing everything. You are mismanaging the country in all fronts. So you want to go and hide behind this nonsense called peace pact. There is nothing like peace pact. They must behave. They must do what is right. You start registration of voters. First day you register 29,000. You come and tell us that you register 25,000. How do you miscalculate? That when your attention is drawn, you correct it. The next day you repeat the same. 43,000, you say 48,000. All these things are happening, they are not hearing. When you ask the peace council, what are you doing? They say they are working behind the scenes. I don't trust any politician or anybody who tells me he's doing the Kodemos campaign. They are not working behind any scenes. There is no scene, first of all, for them to be working. They don't have the capacity. They don't have it. So if you don't have capacity and you are drawing salaries or drawing what you call certain allowances, is it not just wasting our resources? I will entreat Professor Frimpong Manso, the chair, Dr. K.B. Asante, Archbishop Dagga Williams, and all those about 14 governing board or governing council members to, as a matter of urgency, plead with whoever brought them and dissolve themselves. What peace have they brought to this country? You were there, 8 people have been killed as a result of elections. So that we are only going to express our opinion. All these things we are doing, look, it's not a life and death matter. I always say that there is no way any president will come and you that is a fanatic. The president doesn't even know your house address. He doesn't know you. You are supposed to play a role. All we need from government is to make sure that the laws that have been given to them are applied impartially. Judicious use of our tax revenue, that is all is expected of government. So that it conforms to what is contained in Article 36. That the state shall ensure that we are happy. That is all to it. So why would anybody go and fight because of someone's ambition? But they would do so because they have seen injustices being perpetrated. Left, right, center. Animal farm, 4 less good, 2 less bad. That does not build a country. That does not build it. We are in a country where a book has been identified as a Japadia, where we see it playing out lively, lovely, clearly. You will not have a president deal with it. On the contrary, the president is rather insulting the sensibilities of the people of this country and accusing his opponents of fabricating lies when the book actually is working. You have the Peace Council who is unable to identify that that book alone can be the foundation of chaos in this country. That book alone. That a small group of people sat down to capture state resources. And you think it is okay? If you were in a serious country and if the Peace Council, the so-called people were working, they would have called the president to order to come and explain to the people of this country why such a despicable act can take place. And so, I agree with Sena Nombo, the chairman of the NDC, that signing documents will not help or will not assure any peace. The only way peace can be restored is to behave within the laws. If you are the president, the only way you can assure peace is to make sure that because you are the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, you do not cause military personnel who are aligned to your political party, because we have turned the military into a political institution, that you do not deploy military men that are aligned to the new patriotic party come December 7th to go and kill human beings who are perceived to be belonging to the opposition. Because when you kill them, just like the 8 people that were dead, that were shot or killed in election 2020 from Tertiary, you think their family, any amount of Bible quotation will console them when they know that justice has not been brought to them? So you behave properly. When you behave impartially and refrain from arresting your political opponents, that will assure free and fair. When on election day, people are planning to go and rig this election, this beautiful election that a child born today knows the MPP is going to opposition. That one is not doubt. That you want to tell us that you have 1 million ways of winning these elections. Stealing. We have been told by Samir Uku that they will use tact and tricks to win this election. We have been told by Untumi that they will use tricks and they will not repeat the mistake of 2008. What mistake did you do? Ghanaians went and voted and they said the MPP couldn't continue. So you were thinking otherwise. The president then, Kufuor, should have manipulated the elections in your favor. You are not going to sit down. And Kufuor will not sit down and behave like President Kufuor. So you manipulate. Make that mistake. You make that mistake. And see whether elections, what time does it end? Is it 5 p.m.?
Yeah.
Election day?
Yeah, 5. Maybe
by 2 o'clock, those people will run into the bush. If they know the ground swelling. We don't want to preach this kind of hatred in the system. But you see, some of these business does not encourage a very friendly atmosphere. It's like, if it has to do with MPP and even wrong, it's okay. The president, he has time to be commenting about people who are dying in the US and other foreign lands. This president has never seized the opportunity to even commensurate with the 8 that died in Techiman. Have you ever heard him? But he died for you to be president. And I remember one of the Bible quotations. I was born into a Christian home, but my Bible wasn't good like that because I was down there. But one of the Bible quotations that I was treated to when I was with the MPP, I remember vividly, it was Proverbs 29:2. Do you know the Bible? Read it for me. You have your Bible here.
No, I don't.
Say, when the righteous leads, the nation prospers. But when the wicked man leads, the nation suffers. That was what the New Patriotic Party, especially President Kufuor and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, told us. And by extension, and those were the days that the country was going through the doom. So the interpretation of the situation was that a wicked man was leading, that is former President John Mahama, and so we were having to go through difficulty because of that man. Today, in our current situation, are they saying that Proverbs 29:2 is playing out beautifully? That they are so wicked, and that is why for the first time in our lives, we were locked in our rooms, that there was a certain virus called COVID. We couldn't come out. Is it because of their wickedness? We are being threatened with hunger in our own country. Is it because of their wickedness? For the first time, elderly men and women who have loaned their money to the state by way of buying government bonds and shares were giving haircuts. And that is why I find it very difficult when the former Chief Justice, Madam Sophia Akufu, is also joining the fray that there should be a debate. What debate again? You must be debating Dr. Bawumia because your own money was locked in the whole milli. That you have to go and pick it at the Ministry of Finance. So what debate are you looking for again? Just invite Dr. Bawumia and say that, look, I want to save the entire country. Debate me. Explain to me why my own money that I loaned to the country, I've been given a haircut. And you save the situation. We don't have to believe at the point. So, Sena, I agree with them. If they come to my candidate, Mr. Alhaji, you will not sign that your peace nonsense. Just apply the laws. There are laws. If someone go and commit crime all in the name of a political party, the laws must deal with the person. The laws must deal with the person. And nothing more, nothing else. But if anybody, because the constitution of the land, even the Peace Council's own act, no, not even the Peace Council, the Vigilantism and then other related offenses act says that if someone commits an offense or you see someone committing an offense in a community and you retaliate in the name of preventing that offense acting, you haven't committed a crime. So when you are in your community and on election day, we are voting and you have these miscreants come on the altar of being national security to come and take the ballot, my brother, chase him with warmer. That is what the Constitution says. That is what the law says. And all of us will be all right. I end my submission here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I'll come to Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. He is contesting this election. He's a parliamentary candidate. He's a 7 MP, also a parliamentary candidate for the NDC in Tamale Central. on this matter of peace. By a few comments, and this is YouTube. There's Daniel who says, I believe it is time that Peace Council be scrapped. So he agrees with Mr. Usu. Daniel Pinta says, apart from break the 8, it's possible. We will win with strategy. We will not hand over. What is Baomia's message? Eric de Graaf Mensa says, the most difficult opponents to fight are the people who have nothing to lose. And Bernie Champa, of all people, should know that if his intelligence as they portray him to be. There's Eva Peta who says, serious talking. Okay, you're talking seriously, but some of the things are also funny at the same time. Sheikh Fennec Avokpo says, instead of MPP talking about their policy to convince Ghanaians, they rather mount a platform dancing, talking about Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and JDM, thinking that it is not enough, but rather drumming war messages. That's coming from Sheriff. On the WhatsApp platform, this is Yao Kisi from Takrady, who says, the country is tired of hardship, poverty, intimidation, shared greediness from this corrupt MPP government. A vote for NDC JM is a vote to distribute the national cake impartially for all to benefit. Regards to lawyer Feidu from Turkey. Then it continues. The NDC won't sign any peace deal in going into 2024 election, because when 8 people were killed by MPP government sponsored attacks in 2020 in general elections, all those Peace Council and Christian Council were silent. NDC is committed to peaceful election, but won't be idle if justice doesn't prevail. Thank you, Yao, for sending that message. Saba James just sent this one. He says, the biggest mistake of Akufo-Addo is that he doesn't want anyone to be praised apart from him and himself alone, and we all know that God doesn't like that at all. This is the main reason why Akufo-Addo has put Ghanaians into these terrible, horrible hardships. James, thank you for sending that message. This one's a good morning, Pan-African TV. I totally agree with the one and only chairman. Rules that are not obeyed are as useless as nothing. Why should anyone be interested in a peace accord that the MPP has not respected in the past and will not respect any time? Please call the warmongers to order and stop bothering us. Don't you people feel that the heat? We are tired, please. Mr. Ababi sent that from Akotiman. Thank you, Mr. Ababi, for that comment. There's also this one says, I am a Christian and I believe in the tenets of Christianity, but I can assure you that what the Peace Council is doing is a gross departure from what Christianity is all about. What's the essence of signing and seeking for a truce when innocent lives were taken after that pact years back? Wait, have they forgotten about accountability when Christ appears? Well, send that. This Tombao from Doma Hinkori in the Bono region. Thank you for that comment. Some more from our WhatsApp platform. Says a good morning. Honorable member of Parliament. Okay, a good morning, especially to Honorable. Okay, I think this is Vision again. Vision sent it to both Facebook and to WhatsApp, so I've seen it. There's this one, Moses from Nigeria, who says, Mr. Hope, I'm not sure we have Peace Council in Ghana. If there's Peace Council, NDC, okay, says in 2020 elections, 8 Ghanaians were killed. Nakra, people were killed. Takrady, girls. Kaka, Ameswale, etc. All the so-called Peace Council, no, were they not in this country? I wish Brian Champon was in Nigeria. He will see Pepe for his comment. Moses sent that from Nigeria. Thank you very much for sending that comment. There's Edmond Mensas on Spinter. Says, if the Peace Council of Ghana wants all parties to sign their peace pact, then they should call Brian Champon and the president to order for us to see. Otherwise, they should keep quiet. Edmond, thank you for that comment. Just a few more, then I'll come to Comrade. Buhari says the hardships in this country is unbearable and we need to rescue Ghanaians from this corrupt state capture. Nepotistic, super incompetent, clueless MPP government. This is from Buhari. Bukurunsu, I hope I got that right. In Tamale Central, that's Honorable's constituency. Extensive greetings to you. There's this one says the future of the Ghanaian youth is bleak under this government. The government is deliberate about creating hardship and poverty amongst the youth of this country so that with small token of 200 Ghana cedis, they can influence them. MPP doesn't care about the Ghanaian youth. They are only interested in winning elections. It's about time we show them the exit come December 7th. We embrace the NDC's youth manifesto to youth of this country, and that's what we are going to use to market them, to mark them if voted for. Sends best wishes to Honorable Zita Benson. Yao Perry sent that from Akwetia. This Sadat Wumbe, who says the Peace Council should give us a break. Sign which peace accord? A champion should be talked to. Simple. Sadat sent that. Thank you for that comment. Well, those are some of the comments you're sending to us. Keep them coming. I'll read them. I'll continue reading them. The number again, 0559 919802. Comrade.
Sena.
Good morning.
Good morning, and good morning to my sister, Dr. Zita, and then my mischievous friend, Solo. And good morning to your cherished viewers, most importantly, the good people of Tamale Central. Sena, I must begin by saying that the two earlier contributions were nothing short of excellence. I was listening to my sister on my way in my car, and then when I got here, my brother indeed put the icing on the cake. The NDC never said that we were against peace. And trust me, I won't go the tangent Solo went. I don't think that having a peace council would have been irrelevant. But as to whether the mandate for which the peace council was established, they have been able to deliver to the satisfaction of many Ghanaians. Of course, they cannot deliver to the satisfaction of everybody, but at least the barest minimum, one would expect them to condemn any violence that is perpetrated against ordinary citizens whose only crime is that they go to demonstrate their constitutional and democratic right in voting for candidates they want to vote for. One would expect that the Peace Council would. My understanding is that the Peace Council was not also just constituted for the purposes of elections, but to have a say and a position on any issue that endangers the peace of this country. And that is why, if you look at the caliber of people appointed to be the council, these are people that largely Ghanaians, treat with some reverence. These are religious leaders and distinguished individuals. So the question is, why is it that they haven't been able to deliver to the expectation of the people of this country? And perhaps this is $1 million question. But you see, we cannot have this discussion without contextualizing the discourse. Let's have an appreciation the political parties we are dealing with here. And by the way, the MPP issued a statement, virtually in one breath, appeared to be reconciliatory, that they are pleading with the NDC to go sign and come together and maintain peace. In another breath, trying to mock the NDC and to insult the people of this country the more. If you listen to if you read the statement they issued, they say, among others, that they have consistently, since 1992, been the most peaceful political party in this country, and that they do everything to adhere to the peace and stability of Ghana. And in another breath, they say that they are pleading with the NDC to exercise patience and come on board. And on the same, statement, they say that as a political party, they have indeed ensured the peace and stability we have in this country, that they demonstrated not just by words, but by deeds. I mean, if you have, it's a conundrum, if you like, of statements that they bundled together and issued. The reason why I think that we should look at this discussion in context is that we need to have an appreciation of what the NPP is made of. What has been the history of that tradition? Maybe perhaps young people who are engaged in politics may not appreciate how violently the UP tradition was formed. And I have a book, and I'll make it available to whoever is interested. One something feature. The title of it is "The End of the Illusion." And this was not a Ghanaian, I think an European and American, who wrote that book about the political, history of this country. It's not a very big, it's a very small book. And he says, among others, that the UP tradition was formed in fact, when they were to form it, they slaughtered animals by some river in Asante and played Asante war drums. And appellations were used to climax the formation of the UP tradition. But Sena, I have said here on numerous occasions that my grandfather was one of the founding fathers of the UP tradition. President Nanado even mentioned my grandfather's name in his useless sona he presented to the people of this country. But one of the reasons why the likes of me and many others, moved away from the UP tradition and by extension the NPP, is because they do not represent Ghana, is because they represent violence, and the party was created out of violence. So if you have, you know, grandchildren and children of those who perpetrated violence on the people of this country, you know, forming a political party, what do you expect them to do? People are still aware what they did, and as a matter of fact, in Kumasi specifically, people who belong to the CPP were killed barbarously. As a matter of fact, a woman who was a CPP person was not only killed, they pounded her private parts with a pistol in a broad daylight. That's what they did. As a matter of fact, Nkrumah could not even travel to certain parts of Ghana because they threw, I mean, apart from the Kulungugu bomb. If you are so callous that you didn't like Nkrumah, why would you put a bomb in a little girl just because you wanted to kill Nkrumah? These are the people we are dealing with, and there hasn't been a change. As a matter of fact, it is now worse off how the UP tradition was formed as a political party. In 1992, we saw how a gentleman who belonged to the NDC was killed. Macho, you remember, in Kumasi? So these things are still fresh in the minds of the people of this country. So young people who are interested in politics, for me, must appreciate the historical antecedents, the violent history of this particular party, and they will begin to appreciate why people are so concerned, and the likes of General Mosquito, our national chairman, because he knows this tradition too well and knows what they are capable of doing. Now again, let's assume that we have gone through several democracies. The First Republic, and then we had the Second Republic, the Third Republic. We are dealing with the Fourth Republican Constitution. One would say that yes, you don't revisit the past, the dark aspects of the tradition. But let's look at even this one, what happened. I remember my first year in University of Ghana. That was 1999, 2000 academic year. President Nanado, then not a candidate, he was just a leading member of the NPP. He granted an interview, and some of the things he said were so dangerous. In fact, he said, among others, that in case the NPP is not able to win the 2000 elections, that there was going to be bloodshed in Ghana. This statement was made by Mr. Nanado in 2000. Other leading members of the party made similar statements, and I remember in 1992, I wasn't just that pretty young. Professor Edubuahin, the kinds of statements he made, threatening that if the elections didn't go their way, there was going to be violence. And I remember in Tamale at we used to call it Tamale Police Park. It is now Jubilee Park. The kind of inflammatory statements leading members of the NPP made, let alone even others who followed the party. Now, we saw what happened even when they lost the 1992 elections, and subsequently when they lost the 1996 elections and wrote the stolen verdict. Even before the stolen verdict was written, the kinds of statements they made threatened everybody except themselves. So the history of this NPP, in any democracy that we experience in this country, they have always been profoundly and unacceptably violent. That is the tradition of these people. Now, move forward. Let's say in the last elections we had, in fact, the last two elections, when President Mahama won the 2012 elections, we also saw what happened at Obra Sport. A gentleman who was going home with his kids in his car, they vandalized the vehicle, and the only crime he committed was that he had President Mahama poster on his car. He had children in the car. The children were traumatized. 2 years after the incident, a radio station in Accra interviewed the gentleman, and the gentleman said that the children, one of them was still traumatized, and that it has affected the child. Unfortunately, and rather sadly, this may follow that young boy throughout his life. Now, they never, and the crime was that he belonged to President Mahama. Now, the reason why I agree with Dr. Nsolo on the matter of describing the Peace Council as a very useless organization, even though I may not because of certain reasons, I still think that they could have done better. And on a bread that I will not have any problem with them for that description, is that in all this violence perpetrated against ordinary citizens in this country, the Peace Council had been in a complete state of incommunicado. They didn't even see the need to condemn such acts perpetrated by leading members of a political party. Now, Opera Sport, it wasn't just some foot soldiers of MPP who mounted the stage and threatened everybody in this country except themselves. Every single leading member of MPP who mounted the stage did so. In fact, they went ahead to hold a press conference. And Eslewusu threatened every judge in this country in the matter of the ruling of the Supreme Court petitioned. Now, the Peace Council never uttered a single word of condemnation to this. Again, if you look at even this election, maybe one would say that this had been previous elections. Why? In Tamale, registration exercise, you had MPP youth who went the shotguns. It was like Rambo style, wielding AK-47, shotguns. The police arrested them, particularly the leader. And it took my senior brother and the teacher, Dr. Mustafa Hamid, now NPA, who held a press conference, threatened everybody, including the head of prisons. And within few hours, the gentleman was freed from remand. This was illegally, remand case by a court. They didn't just pick him, they took him to court and the judge remanded him. They held a press conference, threatened everybody. And after few hours after the press conference, the gentleman was removed from the remand, and in fact the head of the prisons was transferred. Nobody said anything at all about this incident. In Tamale Central, in the 2016 elections, after Honorable Inus Afuseni won the elections, the NPP candidate for Tamale Central at that time, including MPP leading members, went to the coalition center, vandalized everything, and burnt ballot papers. Just the 2016 elections. Why? In all this, what had been the position of the National Peace Council? And they have been silent. Now, I shudder to think that if NDC was the political party and members who perpetrated this, the condemnation would have been very loud and clear. But they never did so because the MPP is doing it. And only they have the inalienable right to perpetrate violence on the people of this country. Nobody. Now you have Lord Comey, who issues threats against everybody in this country except himself, and threatened that they won't hand over power to NDC. You have a minister of state. These are not statements made by just NPP, aren't MPP people. A minister of state who initially, the earlier statement, responsible statement he made was that they were not going to hand over power to NDC. And nothing happened. He went ahead to make another dangerous statement. You have Salam Mustafa, and I'm shocked about that gentleman. He's my kid brother, and I'm shocked that politics, of course, Cicero was right when he said politics was a country idiot. Because politics can turn people in all manner of creatures. People you wouldn't even expect to behave in a certain manner, they would behave in that same manner. All of them, Sena, have made this repeated, inflammatory, irresponsible, and reckless statement. You know why? They make those statements, and MPP will never condemn them. When the chief comes home with a weird haircut, what do you expect his subjects to do? They come home with tepejo. It's the president himself. The leader of these reckless and irresponsible statements is made by President Nana Addo. And there is a popular African proverb that a hen cannot be flying, and its what? Offsprings will be walking, they will be flying too. The president himself. If a president says that I will not be handing over power to any political party except an MPP party. Now, if the president had said that, look, there is no doubt in my mind that the NPP is going to win the election because of what we have done. Like Doctor was talking about what the NDC has done. She mentioned a lot of the NDCs and the things NDC did. If President Nana Addo had said that, look, the NDC, I don't see the NDC winning any elections because the people of this country will renew the mandate of the NPP because of what we have done. And therefore, I don't see myself handing over power to any political party except the MPP. Now, who would have had any problem at all with that? Nobody would have had any problem at all with that. But for him to say that, I won't hand over power to any political party except MP. In an elections, everybody knows your biggest rival is the NDC. I know Solo will not agree, but that is a fact. Your biggest rival is NDC.
The last election results, so that one.
Your biggest rival is NDC, and you say that you will not be handing over power to any political party except an MPP. You are telling people that even if an inshallah NDC is winning the elections, you are not going to hand over. We have a simple message for President Nana Addo and the MPP. It is not only one woman who gives birth to troublesome children. Many women can give birth to troublesome children. If they do not realize that the peace and stability we experience in this country is as a result of the makeup of the Ghanaian. Ghanaians are very peaceful. Let they not attempt to take that sober, that peace-loving attitude of the people of this country for granted. And perhaps they should learn lessons from other countries. We've just seen what happened in Bangladesh. We've seen what happened in Sri Lanka. We've seen what happened even in Ukraine. And we've seen what happened in many countries. When you underestimate the resolve of people and think that you can play them like football anytime it pleases you, when such people begin to realize that they need, in fact, when such people began to realize that they need to fight for themselves, you may not be happy the consequences. The Constitution of the Republic of this country enjoined us to use any means, including violence, to protect the Constitution. Any means. So if any attempt is being made by anybody to thwart this Constitution, to ramshackle it because of power, the people of this country will resist. That is what the Constitution enjoins us to do. That we should do everything possible to protect this. And the actions of this government points to just one direction. They care less about the wishes of the people of this country. And Solo and Dr. Devolve mentioned that. Look, the issue of the people who were killed, not a single statement by President Nana Addo to condemn or even commensurate with the family. Just last 2 weeks, myself, Honorable Sohini, and Honorable Sam George, we paid a courtesy call on the Chief Imam because of this LGBTQ and a demonstration we are planning to have against the decisions of the rulings. I mean, in that matter where it is, I know my ruling, but I won't talk about it now in many other issues, including the posture of the Minister for Justice and Attorney General. When we met the Osu, the chiefs there, and then we went to the Chief Imam's residence. So from there, our candidate asked us to accompany him to a funeral. So I thought it was just a normal funeral, maybe a constituent. Only for us to get there and realize that one of the victims of the violence perpetrated by President Nana Addo in the 2020 elections, whose leg is virtually gone, lost the mother. This gentleman was the breadwinner of the family. Do we know the consequences of what the family went through, and perhaps what, unfortunately, the mother went through? May she finds favor in the merciful hands of Allah. But you see, so when we talk about lives being lost, the 8 people who were gunned down by men in uniform, Sena, people just think they are just lives. But the faces and the individual behind those lives, their wives have become widows. Their children have become orphans. The education of some of the children may be truncated because the one who was responsible of taking care of them is gone. Their dependents, those whose survival depended on them, will become destitute. Their dignity will be shredded and taken away. Because if you had your child who was providing your basic needs for you, and that child was barbarously murdered by men in uniform, men whose comfort is ensured by the taxes of the very people they murdered, for committing no crime, and these people have sworn an oath to protect lives and property, And what they only did was to go after the lives they swore to protect, because there is a force somewhere that instructed them to do the things they did. When you have a member of parliament who went to supervise an electoral process in Ayawaso West Wago, that member of parliament was beaten, other Ghanaians were beaten by MPP terror group. A commission was established to investigate the matter. They submitted their report and recommendations. Tell me which one of the recommendations have they implemented? And you think that when you treat citizens this way, they will sit again for you to do that to them? There's a proverb in the Gbani. When you are literally, when you are lying on the bed with someone, and you are on the direction of the wall, and then the person keeps on asking you shift, and you are shifting until you get the wall, and the person still insisting you shift, will be able to shift. If the person pushes, what happens? You begin to hook each other. And that is precisely what we are experiencing. Look, whether President Nanado or Salam Mustafa or whoever wants it or not, they would hand over to President Mahama. They would hand over power after 2024 election to President Mahama, because inshallah he's winning the elections. And because they have no message, and because all their researches and surveys point to one fact, that they can't win the elections, and because they know it is now embarrassing to put on MPP shirt to sit in the trotro or anywhere, they have seen the signs. Because if you fail to learn from the past, you will continue to live like a child. And because they have experienced such defeats, and it is very clear that the experiences they had in 1992, 1996, in the year 2008 and 2012, they know it is not different from what they are experiencing now. And those elderly ones among them do know that they have lost the elections. And then you have such unguided demagogues among them who think that they can threaten everybody in this country, even when they are losing elections. They should take a cue from what happened in other countries, and let no one underestimate the resolve of the people of this country to defend and protect the democracy, defend and protect the constitution. And then we win elections, and you say you won't hand over. You would hand over whilst crying. And the reason why they are making such a reckless statement is because it is not just about the elections, but the aftermath of the election. Because they know that haven't lost the election, inshallah, in 2024, the horror with which they plundered the resources of this country will come out. And that is why they are run away. Look, and I told Solo the other time, the only reason why President Nanado and the MPP worked against Alan Chirmantin in your elections is because Dr. Baumia is an active participant in the loot of the resources of this country. And that if for nothing at all, he can protect the loot. And that is why they are bent on supporting Nanado in this election. So I'm saying the NDC has never been against peace, but we are not interested in a pretentious peace. And what they are seeking to do is what I describe as cartoon scenario reality. Oh, let's pretend as if we are peaceful. Let's issue a statement. Okay. Let's invite the NDC to come and sign. And whatever concerns they have wouldn't be considered anyway. Treat them like babies. We will not accept that. So the Peace Council should act. And I was expecting the MPP, in issuing that statement they issued, they would have started by apologizing to the people of this country for and on behalf of the president for having, pretended that nothing happened, no life lost. And Sena, let me conclude. Now, when all those statements, those killings were perpetrated by NPP, the NDC, including other political parties and some section of civil society organizations, condemned the actions. The NPP never did. Now you have a first deputy speaker of parliament, the number 2 most important person in parliament, who is a lawyer. After people were barbarously murdered, gunned down in Techima, they granted an interview and said they were criminals. Now, without the people even being subjected to any court, no court pronounced them criminals. Granted, maybe you have any information we do not have. He said they were criminals and that they ought to be treated the way they were treated. Everybody condemned that statement except the MPP. So now, if you are now issuing a statement, a pretentious statement, creating the impression as if you are in for peace and therefore the NDC should embrace peace, we should come together to sign that peace document. You think that anybody will listen to you?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, comrade. Well, a few comments on still many more comments coming in on the discussions we are having. That's related to the Peace Council and the Catholic Bishops' Conference concerns about a lack of interest. In fact, Mr. Johnson Keta, who's been involved in that in many elections, now says we've signed. There's nothing. We don't see anything. Fine, 2020, well, after I was coerced to sign because he was reluctant at the time, signs it, 8 people dying in the election. I haven't seen anything being done about it. That's a discussion we are having this morning, and this is from Hamza and Pig Farm, who says, good morning. I agree totally with the comments made by Comrade Mutala this morning. In fact, he has really spoken the minds of a lot of Ghanaians this morning. Let us not take the irresponsible and reckless comments made by President Nana Addo and Brian Champon lightly at all. They actually meant every single comment they are making. What stops the Peace Council to call them out and shame them? Where is the Christian Council? This is where these were the people who were so loud under President Mahamad's administration. 2024 election is never between the NDC and MPP. It is about how to rescue this country from the hands of this wicked, super incompetent government led by President Nana Addo and Dr. Baumia. My brother, I totally agree with the chairman of the NDC not to participate in signing the peace pact. There's Odikro Nana Kobnata who says, Solomon Owusu, God bless you. Solid submission and chairmancy all the way. NDC and MPP must all go for us to have peace. A government of national unity is what we need. Al-Hassan Hamdan is joining us from New Guinea. He says it's deeply troubling to witness how the Peace Council, once a respected institution, is gradually losing its relevance. Their silence in the face of escalating political tensions is alarming. Instead of taking a proactive stance to prevent potential violence, they seem to be waiting until the situation spirals out of control before acting. 2024 elections are crucial, yet we hear officials in government making reckless statements about refusing to hand over power. This kind of rhetoric is dangerous, suggesting that even if they lose, they have no intention of respecting the will of the people. Telling the opposition to go and bend the sea is a blatant disregard for democracy. Musa Batwa says, Sena, the Peace Council's call for political parties to sign a peace pact is nothing but a bluff. Their core mandate should be to provide a clear roadmap for addressing politicians who are making unguided and reckless statements that have the potential to create chaos, instead of focusing on symbolic gestures. The Peace Council should be calling out individuals like Brian Champon, who openly declared that power wouldn't be handed over to anyone else. Such statements are dangerous and undermine the democratic process. The Peace Council must step up and take firm stand against these reckless comments, ensuring that those who threaten our democracy are held accountable. This one is from Dennis Akwete, who says, the Peace Council is such a despicable institution and should not be taken seriously. A council that is largely, if not entirely, made up of men of God, and yet could not make a pronouncement and take on government when 8 citizens were killed in the last election, of which our president has not made a public statement on that up to now, should be seen as a partisan political organization rather than a peace council. And it is about time such a council was ignored or scrapped, so we just leave our security to the police instead. Regardless of the problem we currently have with the police. Some more comments on Facebook. There's Abraham Dantata who says, I remember this macho who was killed in Kumasi, Tafo, 1992. I still have his picture. There's Maria Adams. Honorable, we need to work very hard in the northern and savannah regions to take back those lost seats, because I'm seeing that the work is not massively on the ground. Please, you guys must get down to the people. That's Maria Adam who sends that message. Thank you for those comments. Let me read a few comments. This is Kojocho Mwafo. Chesena Akufo-Addo, our president tyrant. Our resident tyrant president should go and act on the recommendations of the Ayawaso West Wogon Commission of Inquiry. He should go on and acknowledge the deaths of the 8 innocent Ghanaians who were murdered by his henchmen. we will consider signing that peace pact then. And yes, the Peace Council is a partisan political tool of the NPP fascist regime. They are a useless organization. Abbas Idrisu was a man I knew. He was the breadwinner for his family at only 23 years old. He had only found the favor of marriage for 3 weeks. Ekufuado and his gang of murderers shot him to death. To today, no one has been brought to book for what happened to him. But they want peace. Peace for whose sake? That is coming from Kojo Chumbua, who sent that message. Good morning to you. This one is coming from Nana Kofinis Legon, says the Christian Council. They only find their holy, peaceful voices to talk about tension and peace when the NDC speaks. When Anando said all die be died, they did not say anything until John Mahama replied with boot for boot. Then Brian Champo said, we won't hand over to the NDC. There was no comment because the NDC did not reply. Then the same Brian Champo said, we will win the elections by all means possible. There was no comment. Then a young NDC guy said, if they come with spears, we would also draw our spears. Suddenly, the Peace Council is now advocating the signing of a peace pact.
There's something the point I need to make.
Briefly.
It's a rhetorical question. Have we ever had elections in this country? Maybe perhaps Doc will be in a position to educate me. At least the Fourth Republic, I can talk about it. Where religion and ethnicity has become the most important tool used by a political party than we have today. You have Samira Baumia going to Muslim communities and telling them to vote the husband because the husband is a Muslim. And I have been saying this. Why? The Peace Council is made up of distinguished religious leaders across all religious divides. You have Christians, you have Muslims, you have traditionalists, they're all in it. Because the secularity of the state Ghana informed how the council was constituted, right? Now, why is it that a particular political party will be using religion as a campaign tool? I know what they do. They go to the Zongos and particularly in the north. They go there, the bases. The youth are sitting there because you haven't been able to provide jobs for them. They go there and saying that vote for Dr. Baumia because he's a Muslim. And I will just conclude on this. Abu Jinapo, the Minister for Lands, went with Baumia to Savannah, because that is the region President Mahama is coming from. And when he was given the opportunity, he said that you shouldn't vote based on ethnicity or religion. You should vote based on performance, and therefore urging the people. And I said, okay, that is good. You know why? When they came to Northern region, where he knows that that is not the region the President Mahama is coming from, he said, vote for Dr. Baumia. We've always had the Bible at the Flagstaff House. So if you vote for Dr. Baumia, you now have a Quran at the Flagstaff House. I mean, these are very dangerous statements. And all these statements, you had it, social media, on TV, everywhere. The Peace Council never gave a jot about such statements and condemning same. And that is why I want to find out from them if it is acceptable for people to use religion and ethnicity in a secular state as a major tool for campaigning, and then you are silenced. Why do you think that people like my good friend Solo and my sister Doctor and others will take you serious? They need to up their game.
Thank you. 2 comments before I come to Doc. This is Hadi Pick Farm. Good morning, Sena, and your panelists. When will Mother Ghana rest under this illegal connection government? President Nanado is the only president who has disappointed the past, disappointed the present, and disappointed the future. Surely the Nanado Baobian government will forever remain the biggest disappointment of the Fourth Republic of our dear nation. History will judge them, and they will go down history books as failures. There's a sa from a shaman. When the elders were esteemed so high, can sell their honor for devil's money, then less pigs eat shame and men eat dung. Peace Council, shame on you. That is Esa. Thank you for sending in those comments. Doc, good morning.
Good morning, Sena. Looks like the peace business is very healthy and alive, or maybe not, because your statement says that the Peace Council, Catholic bishops bemoan lack of interest in election peace pact. Well, it's good that maybe my friends in the NDC are beginning to understand. I'd say that there are two major institutions that the NDC crafted and handed over to the opposition. The first was the Media Commission. Then the second was the Peace Council. And I was surprised, but then maybe I shouldn't be too surprised. The Peace Council was a creature of Professor Mills, I believe. Okay. It was misguided, but it was effected all the same. Now, and I was surprised that the NDC had in their midst someone like Dr. Tony Edu, and they didn't seek his advice, because what Professor Mills did was basically to make permanent and a part of our governance structure a permanent group of intermediaries who only intercede on behalf of the MPP. In fact, the predecessors of the Peace Council first came in 1992. They first came in 1992 after the MPP had pulled out of the... Which election was held first?
92. 96 was the second.
No. There was there are two parts. There was, subsequently, we had the presidential and the parliamentary being held on the same day.
1992 was presidential before parliamentary.
Good. When they lost in the presidential, they decided to pull out. This group came together and they were insisting on power sharing. The same group comes around every time the NDC is in power, and they speak about the obnoxious practice of winner take all. Yes. Now, in spite of all these lessons, the NDC went ahead and made a law that gave these characters a permanent place in our politics. But they only roused themselves around these times, working with some NGOs, okay, and their flagship program is this Peace Pact. Lots of monies are made on the back of this, trolling foreign embassies and foreign powers on the basis that they are going to promote peace. It appears to me that my friends in the NDC have learned their lessons. I'm not too sure they have learned all the lessons that they have to learn. The MPP has understood in a way that the NDC never did that politics is effectively war. Politics is effectively war. You have a contestation, you have a battle between opposing interests. In these years for them, their focus is power, no matter how they get it, by any means necessary. Criminal, whatever. And that's the bottom line for them. In the last election, after a year or so, but before the last election, You have to go back to before the last election. I mean, people appear to have lost track of the fact that President Akufo-Addo insisted on replacing the electoral commissioner, or the person who was responsible for the presidential poll, that's the chairman of the electoral commission, in ousting Charles Osei, in a process that was masterminded, superintended, and directed from Jubilee House. And with that, it was simply determined. So I'm even surprised that several years on, we are still talking about this thing like we've not learned anything from this. The EC as constituted is a component of the MPP party headquarters and directed from Jubilee House. They have control of all the state institutions. Then they throw in the Peace Council or the peace industry into the fray. And they come up around these times to urge peace. And like clockwork, they only rouse themselves around this time. And if you check the persons who are there, you know that they are all MPP apologists. Not one of them can be singled out. Now, a version of this masquerading as the, what do they call themselves? There was a term that was invented. Eminent persons. Yes. You saw them coming after all things had been said to pretend to be the neutral arbiters. What happened? I mean, prior to that point, but prior to the installation of the electoral commissioner, we had adopted at the core of our electoral management processes the principle of consensus. It was that same principle that led the parties in opposition prior to 2000 to reject this notion of ROPA, representation of the people, amendment, yes, okay. Because we knew, we believed that the embassies which were going to be used were organs of the regime. So the parties in opposition, including the MPP then, said no. And when the MPP won power, they passed through ROPA. They passed through ROPA, and I've always brought it up as a tool that can be used. You have these people who see Ghanaians in New York, in America, in the far abroad, who don't recognize Ghanaians in Togo. And they don't recognize Ghanaians in Burkina and Ghanaians in Côte d'Ivoire. But all these they see as instruments to be used to press their advantage. And I think that this so-called peace, this will be a complete waste of time. Worse, it will be pulling the wool over the eyes of the people and fooling them. Now, I remember as an observer, the night of 7th December 2020, just around midnight, after now Chairman Alhaji and Alhaji had declared that the NDC had won the parliamentary poll. And everything was pointing to a presidential runoff. Then, I mean, it was a very interesting evening for me. I was trying to, basically, I can't remember how many TV stations I was trying to monitor at the same time. And I also had radio, and I had my tablet. But it was, as if it was coordinated. First, it started in Ododio. Then reports came in from Techiman South. Okay, and today I'm amused to hear people say that the president hasn't commented. But why would the president comment on orders that he gave? No, seriously. The president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, of all the security services. Those interventions were made on his direction. And I see people dancing around and saying, oh, the president hasn't even acknowledged. The president gave instructions for those key interventions in places where the poll was close or where things had not been completely sorted out. And in other parts, including Ashanti, people were compelled at gunpoint to sign declarations. And what people thought was going to go into a runoff never did. In the event, they manufactured a gap, a margin of 500,000 votes. And they expect to do the same this time round. They're very determined. More so because they can see that they have been a complete failure, one, and that the only way they can save their skins is to hand over to themselves. Which is why Dr. Bawumia has come in very handy. It's going to be almost like a rerun of what the founder of the NDC had intended for Professor Mills. Basically be a cover for his third term. It didn't happen in 2000. We'll see whether it happens in 2024. Because it's clear to everybody that Dr. Bawumia, who is a stranger in the party, will sit on the lap of the president, directed on what he should do or not do. And that has become an area of fierce struggle between the true owners of the party and those who want to usurp their privileges. But that's another matter. I think that this thing about this peace thing is a completely useless and irrelevant thing. You should recognize the people in the Peace Council as apologists for the MPP, period. They are simply an extension of the MPP, which is why they only come into the fray at these times, which is why they are mourning that people will not fall for their trick again. That what people don't want to sign a peace pact. Well, I think that's good. I think we should get real and move on. Those are my thoughts this morning, brother.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Doc. In fact, like I started the show by telling you that he calls it a peace industry. I've never forgotten since he said that. It was many years ago when I was working as a newscaster at Radio Gold that he first mentioned that it was a peace industry. Every year it comes up very nicely. So we're just having that discussion. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll have a conversation on the NDC Youth Manifesto. Took a lot of attention this week when it was launched and the way the events were lined up. There was a manifesto launch, and then the former president stood in Bokum and took questions from the crowd. Quite interesting. One of my favorite questions was the lady who said that those of them who didn't go to school, they see that Nikwe, who also didn't go to school, is now in the army. So if me too, I didn't go to school, I also deserve to be in the army. What would you do to ensure that as an NDC sympathizer, I followed the person who I knew was, we drop out of school together? That me too, I deserve to be there. Interesting question that was asked. Very, very interesting question. But I'll be right back after this break. Give us a minute.
Afi Ugwafito Afishe Easy. Ne Daube Shronkon. Na says the Ridge Royal Hotel Kanwa. In a wire dead. Ridge Royal Hotel, your official hospitality friendly facility for Fetu Afashe 2024. Mogwa man Afishe Pa. Afishe ya. Wo breakfast, lunch, and dinner buffet beya wo dawa. To the Ridge Royal Hotel. Order your bites, pizzas, sandwiches, pancakes, and special cuisines by our international chefs and have it delivered at your doorstep. Join us for the best music, drinks, and ambience at our pool bar and lounge as we meet friends, family, and loved ones this festive season. Ogwazi, we love our tradition, and our hospitality trademark is Ridge Royal Hotel. Call us now on 031-2003-222 or 050-1672-908. Locate us at 2nd Ridge Cape Coast or visit www.ridgeroyalhotel.com.gh. Official poll. Ridge Royal Hotel, richly inviting, comfortably yours.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.
Thank you very much for joining us on the Mother of All Talk Shows, Alhaji and Alhaji, and for staying tuned. We are always happy that you have us in your houses, in your cars, and wherever you are. Thank you for choosing us. There are many of you who are even at the funerals and have your earpieces in your ear and are listening to us. We're grateful to you always. Well, the show is live from the Alhaji for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah studios of Pan African Television. We're live on Pan African Television. We're live on Radio Gold, and many other affiliates across the country. Just a few comments to conclude our very first discussion. But first, let me remind you of my panel this morning. Let me start from my right. Solomon Owusu is a member of the Alliance for Revolutionary Change Movement for Change. Sitting right by him is Ambassador Zita Benson, who is former Ghana ambassador to the Czech Republic. And getting further away from me is Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, who is 7th Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, parliamentary candidate for the NDC in the 2024 elections. And then Dr. David Percy is a student of history and politics. And Doc never always reminds you of certain things that you never forget, like the night of the 2020 elections. That's one of the most dramatic nights I've ever seen as a journalist. And unfortunately, I was not in the front line because my radio station was still off air. This is Prince Henry Koforidua, who says the fact is the MPP government led by Nana Bawumia stopped the blame game and work because they were voted to fix the mess they complain about in opposition and can't continue to complain after being in power for almost 8 years. The same MPP who are saying it is impossible has now turned around to say it is not possible to implement no fee stress policy. MPP, a Cobra. As for the peace path, the NDC will not sign it. The current peace council has become part of the MPP because this was not the kind of peace council we saw under the NDC in the past. We are also live on OT Radio 101.5 in Dambai. Like I said, many other affiliates. So this is a new addition, OT Radio 101.5 FM in Dambai. I'll start the discussion with Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed was a student politician. I know there are many of you people on the panel here were student politicians. Comrade later even worked with the Youth Employment Agency, so started very early, and is someone who's been to the university a couple of times. He's still in the university, I believe. Comrade, in fact, one of the key issues is it the no fee stress policy? Yes. So we'll start on that, and because of my time is not helpful to me this morning, so 10 minutes on that.
I pride myself as the longest serving student leader in Ghana because I was actively engaged in student leadership for 10 years. you know, from Tamale Teacher Training College as a student leader, and then to University of Ghana, SRC in Nooks, and then I finally became the Secretary General of the All Africa Students Union for 4 years. And I can tell you, as the Secretary General of the All Africa Students Union for 4 years, I interacted with several student leaders and young people across the continent of Africa. We used to have an office in Ghana, the Secretariat in Ghana, one in Pretoria and one in Tripoli. And unfortunately, President Gaddafi, who is no more, used to be the backbone of our activities, the financier of All Africa Students Union. Of course, government of Ghana was committed in supporting, because the Secretariat was in Ghana because government of Ghana agreed to commit. And my first interaction with the current president was when he was the Minister for Foreign Affairs, and we engaged him as student leaders. And because of the experience and the interactions I have had with students across the continent of Africa, I can't but admire the policies President Mahama has for young people. And this has always been the mantra of the NDC. If you check the NDC's manifestos from 1992 till date, you would come to the conclusion that the NDC has always taken young people as the center of our policy formulation and subsequent implementation. Look, credit be given to President Mills, where he indeed revolutionized the appointment of ministers in his government. Prior to President Mills appointing several young people, including my sister, as ministers and deputy ministers, we never had that. I have heard people who have argued that President Mills at that time had appointed young